Hey guys, welcome to another Trade Genius podcast. I got my good friend Bob Kudley here. Guys, we got the reason why everyone feels poor and unhappy. Don't believe the government data. Let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
All right, Bob. So, no surprise to us or our subscribers, government data continues to toe us a line that just isn't really reality. And I think this chart tells you everything you need to know about that.
Yeah, if you want to throw it up there, Phil, it's pretty funny is that, people are like, I can't believe Trump won the election. And he won the first election because that alligator jaw was widening. And now I think the jaw got broken. And it's just amazing. I mean, look at this move. I don't know, you always called it, you said COVID wasn't a disease, it was a bank bailout. And you can just see here, that's what they did. They basically tried to save the banks by making all of us pay for it. You guys remember when, I guess maybe it was even the 2008, 2009 problem, or later when the Greek banks were doing bail-ins and taking people's savings? Well, this is how America does it. They don't confiscate your bank accounts. They basically make you pay for everything through a unwritten sales tax, and it's called inflation. And people it basically hit the wall here with the Biden administration, and now we'll see if this jaw collapses. But you can just see that they've been suppressing CPI data, Phil, for decades. They're just taking this 2000 as a baseline. We can go back to 1970 as a baseline, and this alligator would be even scarier, right? So we just reached an end point on this. And what I find really interesting is that I know we have some inflation yet to come. On the bad news side is that I don't know if Trump's going to be able to win the war against energy in the short term because we're not producing enough of it. But on the good news side on inflation is I think the rise of robotics, AI, and actually, ironically, manufacturing coming back to the United States is going to be deflationary over time. So, you may start seeing this thing collapse in of itself. And then the big thing that nobody's talking about is the demographic wave that will cause deflation. Older people just don't spend at the levels that younger, because they're not forming households, they're not buying new household appliances, they're not, they're on their last cars, if you will, and stuff like that. And their money's being spent on basically travel and healthcare, right? So that's also deflationary too, because they're not rolling up properties either. They're like, okay, how do I preserve this for the next generation? So I thought you guys would find it interesting. Everybody listening here, this is like a big duh, but it's really interesting when we can actually find data to show how much they screwed us.
Yeah, and I think, that's why the Fed, it's funny because if you go on Twitter or, financial Twitter, a lot of people are thinking that we're going to get another round of money printing. And I just don't think that if you look at the Fed's track record, when the core PCE, which I think this is kind of addressing, when the core PCE is over 2%, there is no money printing ever. We'd have to see something catastrophic happen again, some black swan event that would force their hand to come in and stabilize the markets. Outside of that, I think people are discounting the fact that this is their primary focus now, and they're not going to budge on it. I think they threw the Treasury a bone and the Trump administration a bone with tapering of the QT, which, they didn't get rid of it. They just slowed it. And their statement on that was so that they can continue to do it for longer. So, I think they're trying to play ball to a degree. But I think, in terms of obviously the administration and even the Treasury for valid reasons want the interest rates to come down. But you're in a rock and a hard place here. And I don't think the Fed's going to budge as quickly as people assume they will. I think it's going to take something very extreme for that to happen. Now, if we go into a recession and we have an 18-month bear market, toward the end of the bear market, when they've done all the cuts that they can do, and we're back to square one pre-COVID rates, then I think you have an environment where you can finally, because then you're going to have deflation, and then core PCE will definitely be back in that 1% to 2% range. But until then, I think this is really telling you that, hey, the Fed's really backed against the wall here, and they're in a position where they really can't be cutting because it's going to create more pain for everybody. And everybody's already, the consumer's already tapped out. And I don't think that's being priced in right now.
No, and I agree with you. And also too, Trump's whole reason for being here is to bend that curve. And the other area too is on migration too. So, when you bring poor people into the country, you're creating inflation because you have to basically bring them up to first level standards of spending. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they're going to do that. Look, you're already starting to see it in rents in areas where the migration has reversed because of the basically the laws being enforced. And rents are going to collapse in some of these cities because they were all being pumped up with government money. So we have a lot of reversals of the mechanisms for inflation, Phil. And I think, look, if I was the Fed and I'm in a situation today, I would hold off as long as absolutely possible before I would lower interest rates, even though personally it would benefit me. I think it's in their best interest to hold the line. They got to break a lot of addictions here, right? The addiction of government money, the addiction of Fed easing, right? The addiction of cheap labor. Trump threw the whole lot into a methadone clinic, and he forgot to give him methadone, and he locked the door. So we have a situation here where the government's cold turkeying, and the economy is going to cold turkey too. As long as he can keep people from losing the faith, it's going to be a good thing for the country in 3 or 4 years. But we're going to go through some pain first.
All right, guys, well, let us know your thoughts on today's video. Love to hear it. Post those comments below. We'll get back to you. And thanks for watching. As always, check out our stuff over at tradegenius.co. Having a lot of success in the chat rooms and on our live VIP voice chat. Love to see you in there. Check that out, tradegenius.co. Thanks, Bob. We'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.
Trade Genius.